Before we dive in, here's the big idea of today's episode. You don't get fluent by studying more. You get fluent by using what you already know.
Exactly. Fluency isn't something you memorize, it's something you practice into existence. And today, we're showing you how to shift from studying English to actually using it in real life, starting right now.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Daily English Loop. I'm Emma, and if you've ever felt stuck in what we call the study trap, learning English for years but still struggling to speak, this episode is for you.
And I'm Jack. Trust me, I've been there. I spent years reading grammar books, making flashcards, memorizing verb tenses, but when it came to real conversations, I froze. I sounded like a textbook, not a human.
Exactly, because we were taught to study English, not use it. We thought if we just collected enough knowledge, fluency would magically appear.
But here's the truth. English isn't something you master on paper. It's a tool. And just like any skill, you don't learn it by watching, you learn it by doing.
So today, our goal is simple: to help you break out of student mode and step into user mode. Because real fluency doesn't come from perfection, it comes from participation.
If you've ever asked yourself, why am I still not fluent after all this studying? Stay with us. This mindset shift might just be the most powerful move you'll make in your English journey.
Let's dive in. Let's start with something that might feel a little uncomfortable. Many of us have been studying English for years, maybe even decades. But then someone says, "Hey, how are you in real life?" and we freeze.
Totally. That deer in the headlights moment. Your brain just blanks. All those hours of study disappear in an instant. It's like your English is locked in a file cabinet and you forgot the password.
We've all been there. You understand the question. You know the vocabulary, but when it's your turn to speak, your mouth just won't move. And you walk away thinking, "What's wrong with me?"
Here's the thing. There's nothing wrong with you. It's not about intelligence or motivation. It's about the way we've been trained. In school, we were taught to study English, not to use it.
Right. We learned how to pass tests, memorize grammar rules, write essays, but no one taught us how to speak in real situations. There was no practice for small talk, no role-playing ordering coffee, no real conversations.
It's like trying to learn to swim by reading about water. You can memorize all the strokes, the breathing techniques, even the science behind floating, but when you jump into a pool for the first time, you panic because you never actually got wet.
And that's exactly what's happening with English. You've read about it, studied it, maybe even watched hundreds of videos, but your brain hasn't built the habit of using it under pressure.
This is something researchers call the input-output imbalance. Most learners have tons of input, listening, reading, watching, but almost no output. You're absorbing English like crazy, but not producing it. And that creates a kind of fluency bottleneck.
Exactly. It's like eating a big meal every day, but never moving your body. Eventually, things get out of sync. You start feeling overloaded. Your brain knows the words, but your mouth doesn't have the rhythm or muscle memory to say them.
And let's talk about something called passive knowledge versus active skill. Knowing a word doesn't mean you can use it quickly, naturally, and correctly. That ability only comes from real-time practice.
Let me give a quick example. Imagine you know the word appointment. You've seen it in books and even used it in writing. But when a receptionist suddenly asks, "Do you have an appointment?" your brain hesitates. You understand, but your response takes too long to form. That's passive knowledge failing to become active.
And that's why so many learners say, I can read and listen, but I can't speak. It's not because they're bad at English, it's because they've never trained that output muscle.
You don't become a dancer by reading choreography. You become a dancer by moving, making mistakes, falling, getting back up. English works the same way.
So, the real problem isn't that you're not studying enough. In fact, most people are studying too much and using too little. You're trying to become a speaker by being a student, and that just doesn't work.
And here's the good news. The moment you flip that mindset, things start to shift. When you stop seeing English as something to study and start treating it like something to use, you open the door to real fluency.
And that's why we're doing this episode, to help you break out of that old pattern. Because speaking isn't the result of perfect study. It's the result of messy, frequent, imperfect use. So what's the solution? One word: practice, but not just any practice, the right kind of practice.
Yeah, a lot of learners think they're practicing because they repeat phrases, do grammar drills, or rewatch the same YouTube lesson 5 times. But real practice isn't just repetition, it's engagement.
Exactly. Real practice means your brain is doing the work, not just watching the work being done. It's when you create sentences, make decisions, and respond in real time, under a little pressure.
Think of your brain like a muscle and English like a physical skill. You can watch 1,000 push-up videos, but your arms won't get stronger unless you actually hit the floor and start pushing.
That's a great metaphor. And the same goes for your mouth, ears, and brain. They're a team. You build fluency when they work together. When you say something, hear yourself say it, and then adjust. That's what we call muscle memory, and it's built through real interaction.
Let's look at an example. Repeating "What's your name?" 10 times in your room might make you familiar with the phrase. But walking up to someone new and saying it, and then having to understand and respond to their answer, that's real practice. That's when it sticks.
Yes, practice is about creating meaning in real time. Here are a few examples. Talking out loud about what you did today, explaining your opinion on a short video you just watched describing a funny memory in English, or even telling your dog, "Get down, please."
Honestly, dogs are the best practice partners. They never judge. And talking to yourself, your cat, your mirror, it all counts because it activates your internal English circuit.
Let's talk about that. There's a shift that happens when you stop translating in your head and start thinking directly in English, even simple thoughts. Like, "I'm hungry, where's my phone?" Or, "That's annoying."
Those mini thoughts are gold. They're how you build what we call language reflexes. Just like you don't calculate how to walk, you want your English to be instinctive, automatic. That only happens through frequent, low-stakes use.
And get this, making mistakes is part of that process. It's not a sign that you're doing it wrong. It's a sign that you're actually training.
Absolutely. The stumbles, the pauses, the forgotten words, that's your brain building new pathways. The struggle is the signal that learning is happening.
Also, don't underestimate the role of emotion in practice. When you use English to talk about something that matters to you, something funny, frustrating, exciting, your brain tags that experience as important and it sticks better.
Exactly. That's why laughing at a meme in English, writing a silly comment, or venting about your day in English, all of that is valuable practice.
In fact, if your practice feels too polished, too comfortable, you're probably not stretching enough. Growth happens at the edge of your ability, not in your comfort zone.
So let's be clear, practice doesn't mean perfection. It means presence. It means participation. It means doing English, not just knowing about English.
It's not about passing a test anymore. It's about building the habit of using English so often that it becomes part of who you are, not just something you study.
So let's talk tactics. We've talked about why practice matters. Now, let's get into how to actually do it. How can you stop passively studying and start actively using English today?
Let's start small. One of my favorite tools is what I call a micro-practice loop. It's super simple. You take 1 to 2 minutes and use English in a real, intentional way. No big setup, no pressure, just quick action.
Yeah, like this. Look around your room and describe 5 things in English. Record a voice note saying what you're doing right now. After watching a video, say out loud what it was about in your own words. Leave a real English comment on something, even just one sentence.
The key is don't wait for the perfect opportunity. You create the opportunity. And the beauty is you don't need a teacher, a class, or even a partner. You're your own classroom.
Exactly. Language lives in the small moments. When you use English in your everyday life, even casually, it becomes part of your environment, not a separate subject.
You can even build something I call a language ladder. Step 1. Watch or read something in English short and simple. Step 2. Say something about it out loud. Step 3. Write a sentence or two. Step 4. Maybe share that with a friend or in a comment section.
I love that. You're turning input into output and climbing step by step. And you can adjust the height of the ladder depending on your mood, energy, or schedule.
Here's another idea. Link English to emotion. Talk about things that make you laugh, frustrate you, or excite you. For example, explain your favorite show in English, or complain about your internet connection in English.
Yes, that emotional connection helps memory. Your brain remembers what feels meaningful. So if something annoys you, say it out loud in English. Ugh, my coffee is cold again. That counts as practice.
This leads to one of the most powerful strategies, habit triggers. Tie English to things you already do. We call this language habit stacking.
For example, brushing your teeth, narrate your routine in English. Making lunch, talk through the steps. Taking a walk, describe what you see out loud. Washing dishes, review your day in English.
These aren't just exercises, they're habits that slowly rewire your brain. You're teaching your mind. English is something I use, not something I wait to be tested on.
And don't think it has to be formal or fancy. Honestly, writing your to-do list in English is practice. Reading a meme and commenting, "That's me," is practice. Sending your friend a voice note in English, 100% practice.
Let's say you're learning the phrase, "I'm not sure." Instead of just memorizing it, try using it naturally. What should I eat for lunch? I'm not sure. Boom, that's real-world use. That's a language reflex in action.
And the more you do this, the more natural it feels. You'll catch yourself thinking in English without even trying. That's the sweet spot.
One warning though, don't aim for perfection. Aim for consistency. There's no gold star for sounding like a native speaker. The reward is building a version of English that works for you.
And when English becomes part of your daily rhythm, you're no longer a student. You're a user. You're doing what fluent speakers do, using the language in life, not just in a lesson.
Let's talk about one of the most common and honestly most dangerous excuses we hear from learners. I'm not ready to speak yet.
Oh, yeah, that classic line. I'll start once I finish this grammar book. I'll speak after I learn 500 more words. I just need to feel more confident first.
But here's the uncomfortable truth. Confidence doesn't come before you speak. It comes because you speak.
It's like riding a bike. No one waits until they feel totally sure they won't fall. You learn to ride by wobbling, falling, getting back up, and then one day you're riding without thinking about it.
Exactly. The same thing applies to English. Your first few attempts might feel clumsy, awkward, even embarrassing. But that's exactly how it's supposed to feel at first.
There's actually a name for what holds people back. It's called the fear loop. You're afraid of making mistakes, so you avoid speaking. But because you don't speak, you don't improve, and that makes you even more afraid. It's a cycle that keeps you stuck.
And the longer you stay silent, the scarier speaking becomes. It starts to feel like this huge, risky thing, when in reality, it's just a skill. A messy, learnable, totally normal skill.
Here's a mindset shift that helps. Your first sentence doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be real. Think of it like a rough draft. No one expects a masterpiece on the first try.
And let's be honest, People aren't judging you as harshly as you think. Most native speakers are just impressed and supportive that you're even trying. The ones who criticize, they're the minority, and honestly, they're not worth your attention.
Perfectionism is the enemy of progress. If you keep waiting until you feel ready, you may wait forever. Because fluency isn't something that just happens one day. It's something you build day by day, mistake by mistake.
Here's something to remember. Every fluent speaker you've ever heard, they all started with broken sentences, nervous pauses, weird phrasing. You're not behind. You're just at the beginning.
And beginnings are supposed to be messy. That's what makes them powerful. Every time you choose to speak, even if it's imperfect, you're breaking the fear loop and building your confidence from the inside out.
So, let this be your reminder. Don't wait until you feel fluent to use English. Use English to become fluent.
Here's where it all comes together. The real transformation happens when you stop seeing English as just a school subject and start treating it as your personal communication tool.
Because let's be honest, if you keep thinking of English as homework or something you get tested on, you'll always feel pressure. You'll always feel like you're not enough.
But the moment you say, "This is my voice, this is how I connect with people," everything changes. English stops being something outside of you and starts becoming a part of your identity.
That's what we call the identity shift. You stop saying, I'm learning English, and you start saying, I use English, even if it's not perfect, even if it's still in progress.
Because guess what? Everyone is in progress. Even native speakers forget words or make grammar mistakes. You don't need permission to start using the language. You don't need to pass a test to call yourself a speaker.
The only thing you need is consistency and courage.
So ask yourself, do I want to be a lifelong English student, always studying, never speaking? Or do I want to be an English user, someone who lives with the language every day?
Because the shift doesn't come from knowing more. It comes from doing more. From saying, you know what? I'm going to use what I know. Right now. Even if it's simple.
You start thinking in English, even if it's just in fragments. I'm tired. Where's my phone? That was funny. That's real. That's the beginning of natural fluency.
And you start noticing the world in English. A sign, a label, a meme. You pause and think, how would I say this? That awareness is powerful.
You get comfortable being uncomfortable. You stop waiting to feel ready, and instead, you build readiness through repetition.
And suddenly, something amazing happens. You stop chasing fluency, and fluency starts chasing you.
You're no longer someone learning English. You're someone living in English.
So, here's your invitation. From this day forward, shift your identity. You're not a student. You're a speaker in progress, a user, a communicator.
And that shift, that mindset, changes everything.
All right, it's action time. We've talked a lot. Now it's your turn. We challenge you to use English today, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. Today.
Pick just one small thing. It doesn't need to be perfect or impressive. Just make it real and make it yours.
Here are a few ideas. Choose one that feels easy, even fun. Record a 30-second voice message about your morning. Say 3 things in English while making dinner. Leave a comment in English on a YouTube or Instagram post. Name 5 things you see right now out loud in English. Talk to your dog, your plant, or your mirror in English.
Seriously, the moment you use it, even for 60 seconds, your brain starts to rewire. You're building the English reflex.
So don't just listen to this and nod. Press pause. Pick one thing. Go do it. Right now.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Daily English Loop. We hope this episode helped you feel empowered, not overwhelmed.
Because here's the deal. You're not behind. You're not too late. You're just one mindset shift away from making English work for you.
And remember, you don't need perfect grammar or a big vocabulary to be a speaker. You just need the courage to use what you already have.
If this episode gave you even a little push, share it with someone who needs to hear it. A friend, a classmate, or even your language group chat.
And we'd love to hear from you. What's one small thing you did today to use English? Drop us a comment or message. We read every single one, and we're rooting for you.
So let's bring it full circle. Remember what we said at the very beginning?
Fluency doesn't come from collecting more knowledge. It comes from using what you already have.
You don't have to wait to be perfect. You just have to start speaking, even if it's messy.
Because the most powerful moment in your English journey might just be this one.
The moment you stop studying and start using.
We'll see you next time.